All right. We are back. The A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. And tons of stuff going on with Tennessee sports this week. But we got a special guest. So, in lieu of our typical podcast for this week at least, we're going to talk exclusively Tennessee baseball because we have former Vol pitcher Will Heflin on with us, who is also with VIP Play, one of our great sponsors. We're going to talk to him about that too. But we're going to break down Tennessee baseball. What exactly is going on? Frankly, no better time to be breaking down Tennessee baseball than right now, where it's not, all rainbows and roses like it has been. Will, what is up, man? Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's a good way to put it because you guys know talking Tennessee baseball the last few years has kind of just been like, so what do we need to do to win the Natty? And then we win the Natty, and it's like, what do we need to do to repeat? And we've got some turbulence on the flight currently. But as someone who went 7-21 in the SEC my first year on Rocky Top, I can tell you it's not that bad. It's not good, but it's not that bad. So it does definitely give us things to discuss and, go back and forth on and maybe even have some disagreements. But it's all in good fun covering the Vols, who still have everything they want right in front of them. But happy to be on the show. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So I'll start kind of with a broad question then. The season started out incredible. And it looked like this team, I mean, the way that they were hitting, then you mix in the pitching that they had, we were kind of having conversations like, is this team better than last year? This is crazy. And then whatever happened, it seemed like the inflection point was really that A&M game. Maybe something happened there with A&M and with Tennessee moving in opposite directions. But when you look at it, this current stretch where it's been 3 straight home SEC series losses and just generally pretty poor play overall relative to the SEC. The SEC is a meat grinder. Tennessee's still a top 15 team, but bad by Tennessee standards. What do you see as the primary problems right now? What is dragging this team down?
Yeah, I think the toughest thing to dissect is that you could point to every aspect of the game and pick out some problems, which is worrisome because you don't know exactly what to like. Hey, if we just fix this, we're good, right? It's kind of a little bit of everything lately, but that also makes me feel like, hey, maybe there's something going on that we don't know about that just needs a reset. And a lot of the problems could be fixed with one, not even a technical baseball solution, but they're not hitting with 2 outs. We've come so used to seeing this program get the big swing. Um, you know, Guys couldn't get out of innings. Like, think about last year's team, the 2-out hitting. And I hate comparing to last year's team, but that was what they were better at than anything else, was just with 2 outs, you couldn't slam the door. And that played out, huge in Omaha. Obviously, a lot of people have talked about the infield play on defense. Keelan's finally back. Looks like they're going to settle with what they did this weekend, at least for the time being. And so maybe playing several weeks at those positions everybody will get more comfortable and more consistent there. There were some base running mistakes. It was actually game 2 that you won where you gave away 3 outs on the base paths, but you had a lot of base runners. And so I guess that's a positive takeaway there. But then, obviously on the pitching side, it's kind of been tough because they feel like there's more pressure. The walks and the free bases and the nibbling, it seems like that's a result of you're not getting big spots on offense. And so you're not just attacking guys like you typically would pitching with a lead, because they're not pitching with very many leads. And so the result is you're either walking them or throwing meatballs right down the middle. So I think the biggest issue in the bullpen right now is like your 2 power arms can't strike anybody out. Snead and Franklin. I've just seen a lot of contact, and your best 2 strikeout guys on the entire staff are starting. And so the biggest issue for me lately when Tony's trying to make pitching decisions is like, who's he go to when you need a strikeout? Because you're going to have those situations. And I think that answer right now may be Arvidsson, but they don't necessarily trust him because he's a little sporadic. Sneed's obviously Sneed, Loy are your top two in terms of trust, and then Franklin that next tier, and then Arvidsson probably a tier below that. But I think, complementary football is such a big thing, but Tennessee has been so uncomplimentary on the baseball diamond that every aspect of the game is affecting the other side. And so when you can't get shut down innings after you do score, and you can't put anything together after you give up a couple runs, you're not punching back, all that stuff is weighing on them, and the league is not going to give you a breath. And they've just been beaten down by very solid teams these last couple weeks, and as you guys know, the margins are small, and so they're not as far away from being what we saw earlier, and they weren't as good as what we thought they were early. That doesn't mean they can't get back to that and be better. I'm just saying the margins are so small. Even when things are going good, look at Texas. They went into this week in 19-2 and got their tushy handed to them. So it's just it's different because it hasn't really happened under Vitello, and I think the most surprising part is them not being able to pull themselves out of it quicker, like we're used to seeing. But taking some on the chin is all a part of the game, especially in baseball.
Yeah, I know you played, really before the portal exploded. And it seems like now there's just so much turnover on these teams from year to year between draft picks and bringing new guys in. The way this team got off to like such a hot start, and then you go through some adversity, and this team, it's the first time this version of this team's really played together. A lot of unique personalities. How big of an impact do you think that makes on where they're at in the season? The fact that they're going through adversity for the first time together, and is that something that can be like an asset moving forward when you get to the end of the season, you get to the tournament, regional play, that you've been through this together, and you kind of find out how everybody reacts? I know baseball is such a unique sport, and that every season's unique with the personalities, and some games you do everything right and still lose. How do you think that impacts these teams? Like, it just seems so different from what we've seen traditionally in college sports over the years.
Yeah, it's 100% different. So like I really don't even have firsthand experience what these guys go through year in and year out now. Uh but it definitely can help them to answer your question. Like it can be good if they're able to pull themselves out of this. But it makes it harder because like you said, they just probably felt pretty invincible when they all come together, they do their little fall camp, and then the season starts and it all kind of happens quick, and then they're winning all their games, and they're like, wow, this is great. So, I don't think it's been I don't think it's all been baseball technical reasoning for the struggle lately. Like you can tell there's some environment struggles right now, right? And I don't think that, winning solves all problems. And so that's certainly part of it. Like when you lose, the issues become much more magnified. But it's definitely something they can get through. I wish I had the answer or some sort of experience to draw on to offer, some advice on how to get through that. But, the personality of each team is different, and this iteration of Tennessee baseball definitely seems like the most mellow, if you will. Slow heart rate. Like your leaders are Inslee, who's kind of, even keeled, and Dean Curley never changes his facial expression, good, bad, or in between. Like your only real fiery, emotional guy, like Drew Gilbert type, is Fisher and Doyle, who are both from the North and transfers. Um, and so that's fine. Like it's baseball is such a game of collective individuals, but so it's easy to say, oh, they don't seem like a team. They're, things aren't, the vibes aren't good, whatever word you want to use when things aren't going well. And I would say, yeah, you're right. But I'll tell you what would help is if individually they all started performing better, and then collectively as a team got better results. Like, and that sounds a little brash, but that's the way it is. Like everybody's there to get theirs, and when everybody's getting theirs, then it's all sunshine and roses. Like I don't think anybody tabbed Christian Moore like the greatest clubhouse teammate in the history of the world before he was performing and being the alpha on the field. And so, I think it's similar to the 23 team in that, maybe some of the struggles make you think that they're not as tight knit or whatever. But they, when things were going well, we were like, man, they just gelled so quickly. And so I don't want to be a victim of the recency bias here. And I'm kind of with you. Like, we could look back on the end of it and be like, wow, that was really beneficial. But we've kind of said that for multiple weeks. It's really, you can still zoom out and say everything's in front of you. But if you let this carry over another 2 weeks, you're going to lose what you had built up, which is home field advantage for the playoffs. And so, like, really this week, it's got to get turned around. I hate to say like must win when you're in a 30 game schedule, but like considering who the opponent is, you're back at home, where we're at in the season, like it's a must win series. I think for not just the environment in the clubhouse, but also your seating and your standing within the SEC.
Kind of following up on that, how, like, from your experience, just being in the program or playing in college, how difficult is it for these guys? Like, I know most of these guys come up like playing shortstop, right? Like they've played that position probably their entire life. They've been the best player on every team they've been on. You get to college and suddenly maybe you're in left field or you're moving around to second and third and you're constantly switching positions. Does that impact play, you think, on the field? And how hard is that for some? Like, do some guys do better with it than others? Is that something that you think is difficult, or is that kind of overblown?
Well, clearly some guys do better than others with it. But I think it's been overblown a little bit just because of the issues that have resulted from it. And you're right, a lot of schools at Tennessee's level just recruit a bunch of high school shortstops because those are the most athletic, best kids on the team, unless you're, left-handed like me, and then you gotta play somewhere else. I wish I could have played short. But I think shortstop is the hardest position, especially, in the infield. Outside of like catcher, but that's a different deal. I'm saying on the infield, or, a lot of shortstops end up being phenomenal outfielders. Look at Tatis. Like, it's just the most you're pretty much the most versatile baseball player if you can play short. You can play anywhere else besides catcher. So it should be easier to play somewhere else than shortstop, but that's not necessarily the case if you're, going through all your reps in practice and all the pregame stuff at one position for, half the season, and then you're playing in the games at different spots. Like, it's a little difference, but it's just enough to throw you off. And so I'm definitely willing to give Curly and some, Manny, who's flipped around some, but he's so talented with the glove. Like, all those guys who have kind of bounced around, I'm willing to give them some grace. But if they stick where they have been these last couple of weeks, like this weekend needs to be the cleanest infield defense that they've had up until this point. And that will at least tell me that, hey, they're getting in a rhythm. They're getting comfortable at their positions and playing better as we get into the thing. But certainly by when you go to Arkansas, that's a natural surface, and then you're going to be in Hoover, and then we'll see where they end up for postseason play. But eventually, if your season ends where you want it to, you're going to be in Omaha, which is we saw from the jump last year how important infield defense was. So that they've got to get that figured out.
It's in a similar vein, and I feel like pretty relevant for this weekend series with Vandy, the way they play. I mean, it seems like it's been a years-long problem that Tennessee gets run on, and whatever it is, when guys are on base, they're instantly somebody at first is stealing second. And is it something with how Frank coaches in a specific way? And I'm not, I didn't play baseball too much, so the pure technicalities like that, I don't really know. I mean, is there something there? And I mean, with Vandy, kind of like with Kentucky, they play that small ball, score 3 runs, play a bunch of defense. The most annoying opponents, let's be honest. I mean, do you see this potentially rearing its head this weekend?
It could every weekend. It's really a Vitello philosophy, and the whole thing is don't sacrifice the war at the plate for the battle on the bases, and they live by that. And here's my thing. That didn't work for me because I wasn't a strikeout guy, and I could control the run game much easier than, say, a Phillips could, because I'm left-handed. So guys didn't run on me, but I was also like, hey, I'm not going to strike out 150 guys a season. I'm going to give up more hits than, say, a Liam Doyle. So they need to be on first base. Like, it's much easier to score from second or third than it is from first. So they kind of leave it up to each guy, but the philosophy is always the war at the plate is the most important thing. And with 2 outs, the middle infield is not going to be holding anybody at second. They're going to be deep. It's completely on the pitcher and his looks. And if he decides that he doesn't care, then let him go. Here's my thing with Doyle on the mound in certain scenarios. I'm like, yeah, just leave him. Don't even worry about him. Like, just give it to him. Like they ended up trying to steal home too because the guy had 2 strikes and they knew he really didn't have a chance. But a situation like that where you've got a lefty in the box, Doyle's on the mound, there's 2 outs and a guy on second. I'm completely okay with just being like, just get to third, go on. If that lets Liam get back in the windup, even better. Like, who cares? But there's certain times where that 90 feet is very important. And so, like, for Phillips, he's kind of a strikeout guy too. I just think it's a case by case thing, but they're clearly not they're not naturally good at it, holding runners. Like, you think about the real just savvy pitchers, your Zach Greinke's of the world, your Greg Maddux, and those guys are both pinpoint accurate righties, and it's a different game. Like, those are your 2 strikeout guys in Phillips and Doyle. If we're in the pen, somebody like Nate Snead, like, brother, you're not striking enough guys out and you're throwing too many wild pitches to just give away third base. So, like, maybe we give up 6 feet of gap on the infield to have the shortstop hold the guy at second a little bit longer. But I think it's something to where it made a lot of sense in years past because you were banging balls around, you're striking guys out, and the proof is in the pudding, right? But they just don't seem willing to stray from that. And I can respect that, but also the way things are going lately and the opponent that you've got coming in, I would like to see a slight adjustment in the right circumstance. Give me a slight adjustment and a little more attention on the run game. Because it's one thing to give it up some, but they've been abused on the base paths by some teams.
Is that just like longer holds or
I think, yeah, that's part of it. You definitely got to mix your holds, maybe be a little bit quicker to the plate. There's a combination of things. You got to play catch. Like, if Peoples throws one away or we don't keep a ball in front on the middle infield, they're going to keep testing us until we prove that we can stop it. And I think they threw out 2 guys this weekend. It was one of these last few weekends where they did throw a few out and it kind of simmered down for at least that game. And so that's all it takes, really, is you throw a couple guys out, change an inning for yourself, and then they'll be much more conservative on the path. But it's kind of like, we're going to keep testing it until you stop it.
Right.
You mentioned Snead there a minute ago, and I mean, he's a guy that just noticeably has fallen off from his best stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With pitchers, if you had to diagnose him, so to speak, what do you think that might be, and how can they maybe climb out of that?
Yeah, I think for him, it's been the breaking ball hasn't been what it used to be or usually is. I mean, he can certainly start throwing it more, competitively at the drop of a hat. It just, for whatever reason, doesn't seem like he has that great of a feel for it. It's kind of hung. It's not as hard or as sharp as normal. And so guys are able to just gear up and sit on his fastball. And, his velocity is the same as Liam Doyle, but I'm not a huge TrackMan metrics guy, but guys swing and miss at 96 from some guys a lot more than 96 from other guys for whatever reason. It's got to do with all the nerdy number stuff, induced vertical break, backspin, all that stuff plays a role. And so for whatever reason, Snead's fastball is not playing right now like it should at that high of a velocity. And so I think part of it is just being able to keep hitters off balance, and part of it is throwing with conviction, because it sounds like we're hammering the guy. Like, the only reason we're talking about this is because he is so talented that there should be days when he comes in that the other team has no chance. That's what it should look like most days, right? And it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to come in and get hammered sometimes. That's just part of the deal. But I think for him, he's really not far away. It's be able to throw that breaking ball for strikes a little bit more early in the count and be able to use it as a put away pitch and get it off the plate, but still, generate swings. And that's easier said than done, but he's shown that he can do it in the past. And so they're going to keep running him out there. Nothing's going to change there. And so I kind of challenged Fisher and Keelan earlier this week, talking with a buddy. I was like, man, they've just got to give us thump and they've got to have a good weekend. Like, it's just as simple as that. The same thing for Snead on the pitching side. Like, brother, it's got to be you in leverage spots. We're going to use Loy. They extended Loy this weekend. It was kind of circumstantial, but he was phenomenal. And then Snead is your leverage guy, and that's who he is. So it hasn't been good, but if he gets the thing turned around, that changes a lot for the entire team, because he's just got too good of stuff to be getting hit like he has the past couple of weeks.
From your experience, like with the breaking ball, is that just when you don't have a feel for it, does it come from trying to overthrow it, just trying to snap it off? Is it mechanical release point? Is it just something you find randomly in a bullpen or something?
I really think it's a little bit of a combination of those, but the main thing is just the trust in it. And when you come in and just rip it as hard as you can and have trust in it, it generally goes better. And unfortunately, it took me, 3 seasons and a COVID off season to really develop a breaking ball that I could use to lefties that was more horizontal, the slider. And that literally turned around my whole Tennessee career. Like, I went from maybe an inning on a weekend and being more of a midweek guy to literally a weekend starter because of the breaking ball. And you see it and it's like, wow, is one pitch really that important? It's like, yeah, look at what guys throw 80% of the time when it's late, runners in scoring position. Guys come in now and they're all 95, but what do? First thing out of the pen, big situation, slider, slider, slider. Like, it's harder to hit spin, and especially in bigger situations, guys are going to make bigger swings. Adrenaline's pumping, and so the dudes who can flip in a breaking ball at will and then put guys away with a sharper one is just so different. I always think back to Kevin Kopps. Like, he had the greatest reliever season for Arkansas in college baseball history. 1 Golden Spikes as a reliever. That is absurd. And what did he do? He threw 1 pitch the whole year. It was like, he called it a cutter, but it was just a slider, but it was like 87 and 90 with enough movement to get it off the barrel, and he could put it anywhere he wanted it. And it was that simple. Way, very hard to repeat, but it was really that simple. So for Snead, it's like, dude, you have 98 in your back pocket. If you can work off the slider first, you're in business. But to have to kind of use that to throw them off, but it's not really where it needs to be in regards to your fastball. Like, it's very recognizable right now. It's popping out on him a little bit, not to get too technical.
That's an aside real quick. What is it about the cutter that is so difficult to hit? Because as a baseball fan, I see that pitch used so much. It's like a
lefty to righty.
Yeah, and it's like
the last few years.
It's not that hard of a pitch, right? Like, they're usually thrown at a lower speed, than a four seam. What is it about that pitch?
It's only a touch slower than a four seam. The guys who throw it really well, like I watched Garrett Crochet's out in the other day, and he's always kind of had like a natural cutter, but he's throwing a more intentional one now, and it's like 94, whereas his four seam is upper 90s. But you can't tell really in the box because the spin is so tight, and it's gripped kind of in between a fastball and a slider. Some guys do it differently, but the guys who throw it the best, you just can't tell, and it moves just enough to throw you off, but it doesn't move enough to where like a hitter can pick it up and recognize it as a different pitch. And so guys swing at it like a four seam, and it's just not in that spot. And so that's why it's really good, when guys throw it the best. Tanner Franklin throws one. At times his is really good. And then at times when, the downside to a cutter is if it doesn't do that, then it's just a little bit slower of a four seam, so it can get hammered. So it's kind of high risk, high reward, similar to a changeup, I guess. You hang a changeup and you usually don't get it back, but a
Yeah.
good one, guys will swing through it and not even realize that it was a changeup.
Well, Will, as I mentioned earlier, you're working with VIP Play, and they've been one of our great partners here on this show. And we got a couple more questions, but before we finish up here, why don't you just tell us what you're doing over there?
Yeah, so I have always been kind of a numbers guy, and the sports betting has always intrigued me. So I joined their team. I'm doing brand partnerships and user acquisition for them, and I've helped them kind of build their new app and do some marketing stuff. I'm kind of just bouncing all over, helping where I can. But the app is awesome. It's going to be competitive with everybody else in the industry. You'll be able to bet on anything you want. We're going to offer more leagues on day one than anybody else in Tennessee. It's going to be like over 200 leagues. So if you like betting on stuff you wouldn't normally watch, that's the place to do it. But it's a good team, and it's a really good app. So I'm excited. It's launching soon. Tennessee is the first state that we'll be live in. I think West Virginia is coming soon as well, but going to be launching in Tennessee sometime this month. I'm not sure exactly the day. I've kind of, we joked before we got on. It was like, is it going to be this day? And I was like, I don't think so. It's coming soon, and we'll let everybody know. But we're excited. There's gonna be welcome bonuses, all that sort of stuff, and the app is awesome. So do appreciate it if you at least check it out, make an account, get your welcome bonus, that sort of thing. Always 21 plus, and in Tennessee only. Gambling problem? Please call the hotline. All those good disclosures and stuff. Please do that.
Yeah, I've made
And
made
nothing
kind of
I
a-
say on here is ever betting advice.
Correct. I've made a little bit of a sport out of reading the disclaimer for what was in sports and is now VIP Play. For some of those the sweepstakes that you all had, the disclaimer got like super long, and I was like, all right, let's see how fast I can go through this. And yeah, it kind of became a competition with myself. So
Yeah, those
I
sweepstakes that disclaimer is super long, but we're still going to be doing that, which is a $10,000 free bet each month.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, go check out VIP Play. We appreciate their partnership. Now, just a couple more with Will here. We appreciate him coming on. I mean, I'll say this. Do you think they get it turned around? I mean, time's running out. Time is running out. And I'll say if they do, what's it gonna look like?
Last week I said they need something weird. Do you guys remember the rally possum that happened to LSU a couple years ago? It was like
Yeah.
it was either Hoover or their regional or something. They were not playing well, and they had this possum run on the field, and one of their crazy Cajuns like grabbed it. They either got a stuffed animal to represent it or something. They just used that as momentum, and that was like wholeheartedly believe turned their deal around, and they made a run off of that. So I said last week Tennessee needs something like that, like a come from behind, weird walk off win. And sure enough, game gets delayed after Bargo ties it in the ninth. You go into Sunday having to finish game 2 in a tie game. You throw Liam Doyle out there on the mound. You win a come from behind, walk off, weird split into 2 days game. And I was like, there's the momentum. That's what they need. They're going to hammer Auburn in game 3 because it's doubleheader. We're going to do to them what A&M did to us. Yeah, right. That didn't happen. So I don't know what exactly they need, but they need something like that, something weird, maybe something weirder than just a normal rain delay and a come from behind win. Maybe they need, a major league. What was the guy's name? Serrano.
Yeah.
Did the little deal at his locker to get the voodoo off of him. But now baseball's a weird game. It's a streaky game. I don't ever, chalk up a win or a loss and say, wow, that was lucky or unlucky. But they have hit a lot of balls hard right to guys lately. And, some of those choppers on the infield that are hits, you need some of those. And we just have not gotten any of those. And so I think with a little bit of luck, a little bit of vibe switch in the environment in the dugout, maybe a little bit of juice there, and some guys that have to carry this team get a little hotter, if you will. But guys like Fisher get going again, Keelan gets going, Curley gets going, because Ainsley and Bargo have been pretty solid, but around them, like Chapman has cooled off, Fisher is cool. You need your thump back. I think a combination of all that, and you can get exactly what you want, which is this team at the top of the rankings, who nobody wants to play, who's seemingly playing their best baseball down the stretch. And that is in front of them. But like you said, the time is now. The place is here.
Just real quick, what's your thoughts on AJ Russell? That's such uncharted territories, really coming back from this injury with the unique operation there, the internal brace, and trying to balance his future career with easing him back in. I mean, what's your take on his whole situation and how he's been throwing it?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a HIPAA violation or not, but Drew Beam did the same thing where he came into Tennessee having just had that. And so he didn't, I don't know what his month timeline was, like how far he was removed from it. But he had kind of had that modified one. And then if you guys remember, Jackson Leith had that done in junior college. And he ended up tearing his hamstring his last year. He was going to be good for us in that 21 year. But so a lot of Vol fans didn't get to see him because the thing kind of blew up after him. And so a lot of people didn't get to appreciate him, but he was a power arm, like really good slider, and was like 95. But anyways, he had that as well. It's tough. I had the full Tommy John, and I really wasn't normal until like 18 to 20 months after. But, AJ looks good. He looks like he's not having to labor to get his normal stuff. He's 94, 96, which is what we saw. I still believe he's the best pitcher on the team. Like I said that after his few starts last year, like this guy is absolutely legit. And I still believe that. As good as Liam Doyle has been this year, no disrespect to him, he should be a top 10 pick. I think AJ's ceiling as a professional is still the highest on the staff as a pitcher because he is so effortless and he is just, his stuff is so unique in that in an age where everybody wants to backspin it and live at the top of the zone, he is throwing that power sinker and you can live on that thing for 15 years. Tim Hudson did it. And I just think that's phenomenal. I love his demeanor. So I've always been a huge AJ Russell fan, and he's looked good. I think they've done a good job of not extending him too far. And you can see when he gets to about 40 pitches right now, the stuff dips a little bit, and that'll just have to be an invisible barrier that he breaks through. He's going to have different stuff along the way on this recovery path that he's kind of having to break through in real time, which is tough, but he can do it. And I think, if I would have asked you, Zach, in February, hey, by the end of the deal, AJ can start a game for you and give you 3 innings, you'd be like, where do I sign?
Oh, yeah. I was telling Charlie, I was like, there's no way this guy's going to be able to contribute
Exactly.
this year.
I was thinking 1 inning, it's got to be a clean inning. Don't bring him in the middle of an inning and, probably not the 9th, but just for adrenaline's sake. Like I wanted to be super cautious, but he is, that first game he started, I know they were kind of blown away at how good he looked and put the brakes on him a little bit. When he came back and threw that first inning, it was a midweek. I forget who it was against. It was like Radford, maybe it was the week before Radford. He looked unbelievable. I was just like, wow, he looks great. So, my thoughts on him are keep doing what he's doing. Let him stay in that role. Let him kind of dig through those barriers on base, not just returning from injury, but also getting back into the flow of pitching in game and working through, getting the feel back for his off speed and that sort of thing. Because, he's able to be that wild card for us. And game 3s have not gone well for Tennessee lately, but I always feel good when he's out there. And so if he can give you an opportunity to score first for a couple innings and then pass it off to Coons or Krenzel, if you haven't used either of them yet, then you're in a good spot there. But, they've scored 5 runs the last 3 rubber matches combined in 25 innings. So 9, 9, and 7. I don't care who you got on the mound. A game 3, you got to score 10 sometimes. That's just part of the league. Like, it's game 3s are supposed to be the highest scoring. It's everybody's in the most rhythm from the weekend. You've seen everybody, like they've seen the ballpark. Everybody's kind of in a routine. Sunday is usually just the back and forth, more offensive day. And so, the offense has got to pick up the pitching staff there. And then other parts of the weekend, the pitching staff needs to pick up the offense at times.
Well, I know we're going long here, but I have one more.
Oh, you're good.
Just
I
because
can go all day.
All right. So, you just have an interesting history with Tennessee because you saw everything. Like you said it earlier. I mean, your first season at Tennessee was the version that for guys my age, that's what we knew for most of my life outside of the Delmonico years. I mean, when I was in college, I've told this on this show. When I was in college, we would go to the games to get a free T-shirt and to hang out in the sun for a few hours.
Yeah.
And then you'd watch Tennessee lose. And now that has transformed into the defending national champion. And what we're fretting about is how do we repeat the national championship? And you saw both versions, different coaches from Vitello to now with Tony and Frank and everybody. I mean, what is that like seeing what this has become from where you started with Tennessee?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because I need to remind myself of this, that what we as Tennessee fans and people who cover it and people who just watch is not normal, is not like this little stretch. This season is much more normal in the SEC than what Tennessee fans have seen in 21, 22, 24, and then the end of 23. Like 23 and this season kind of have some similarities. That's how it is every year for most everybody. But Tennessee has truly been the most dominant program over the last half decade. And so we need to remind ourselves to be thankful for what we get to watch. Like, we're sitting here acting like the sky's falling, and we're just like, yeah, if we just win one of our next 2 series, we're hosting. Like the 98% of the teams in college baseball, don't even have a fighter's chance to host, even if they go 6-0 their next 6 regular season, or B, like even if they could host, they don't have the stadium to do it. And so, yeah, I think part of that is when you win the national championship, there's expectations that come with that. But fortunately for us, there's nobody that has higher expectations and is more OCD about where this program is going than the guy running it. And so we're in really good hands there. And it's times like this where you do got to step back and be like, okay, let's be thankful for what we got here, because there were times where it was, you couldn't get people to come into the stadium for free. Like, we did $2 Tuesdays. Now it's like $200 Tuesdays. And, you gotta take out a loan to get in the damn place on a weekend, which is good, which is really, really good. And I've always, felt super proud to be a part of it. Like, I never acted like I was the main turnaround, but I was always there and did what I could to contribute. And, anytime I go to the park now and see everybody in the stadium and see what they're doing to the stadium, and then I watch them bring in number 1 recruiting class after number 1 recruiting class. That's the other thing people got to remember is, like, if we don't win the national championship this year, you realized how stacked we are for next year and the year after that. Like, there's only, I think Marin is the only draft eligible sophomore out of this group, and maybe Anson Cyber, who hasn't even pitched this year and was one of the top recruits that they have. He's a tree, by the way. If you guys haven't seen him, he's a righty. He's like 6'7". He got hurt this year, but he'll be back next year, and he's a freak. So it'll be okay. I know that the expectation is to win the Natty every year, and that is still 100% on the table. This team, that's what's so frustrating about this team, is on paper, nobody they've played, you've been like, they might have been better than us. Like, heck no. You've got 95 after 95 coming out of the bullpen or starting, and you've got, just really good athletic draft potential swings in the lineup. And it's just not going well right now. But they can turn it around, and I certainly do need to step back sometimes and be like, okay, this is okay. We need to play better, but this happens.
Do you happen to see Blade Tidwell's start on Sunday? His first career start. His final line didn't look great. I thought he had some bad luck on some balls in play, and
Yeah, he kind of faced the same crap in the minors. Like his stuff has been phenomenal all season, but he's not very lucky, which I guess he's the guy who can deal with that, because if you know Blade, he's kind of just a dumb country dude with
he
an
seems
electric
super
gun.
even keel and just very not a very
It's
bright
funny you bring him
personality.
up. You want a quick Blade story, because his freshman year was my last year, and we at the end of the season he threw game 2 and I threw game 3, but for most of the year we got flipped in Hoover because I turned around and went twice. We were on kind of the same like lifting bullpen schedule as the game 2 and 3 starter, and one time I forget what had happened. I think we were just being young and complaining with Q, the strength coach, about the running program, the conditioning, and we were just, it was hot. We were, Sean Hunley was probably the ringleader of the deal. We were just giving him a hard time and being dumb and immature. Well, he was fed up with it and was like, you know what? Y'all just aren't going to do it the rest of the week, and y'all aren't going to lift either. You want a week off? Take your week off. And he was trying to prove a point to where, like, if we would play bad that weekend, then he could use it as a learning experience. But anyways, I'm a senior, Blade's a freshman, and we're like, dude, we have to do our lift. Like, we were both throwing really well at the time. We were coming off like the Arkansas or Vanderbilt series, one of those big series where we threw well. And we weren't allowed to be in the weight room without him there. That's just a liability thing. If one of us is to get hurt, like the school's in big trouble, right? And so we're like, well, we'll just wait till after practice, then we'll go do our lift on our own. And I had done it before, kind of gotten away with it, like in the off season or whatever, snuck in there. And I was like, they're not going to check who's used their code. And so we wait and we think everybody's gone. And we're like 5 minutes into the lift. And guess who walks in? Tony Vitello. Doesn't say anything. Not like, what are you guys doing? He's just like, what's up, guys? Y'all getting a lift in? We're like, yep. And he just kind of turned around and walked out. And I was like, we are screwed. We are screwed. Blade's like, oh, hell. You know how he's from Loretto, Tennessee.
Right.
And he was living with me at the time too, because the freshman dorms had just finished being built, and Tennessee baseball had never played that late into the season. Like, usually when school was out, we were about wrapped up, weren't playing in the regionals. So they hadn't really developed a plan. Well, anyways, Stokely had literally was like, you guys cannot stay here. And all the freshmen were literally just homeless for the remainder of the season. So I took in Blade to my apartment. I was living with my wife already, because I had that plan. COVID happened. I wasn't expected to be back at school, yada, yada. Different story. So anyways, Blade was living with me, and we knew we were screwed when Vitello left. So we get a text from Q not too long after, and he's like, get out. I'll see you guys Monday. And this was like Thursday, right before the series. And so he didn't say anything to me on Friday. I tried to get something out of him. It was just an awkward exchange. And then he was like, we'll address it. And that was all he said to me basically the whole weekend. And so Monday, which is normally your off day, Blade and I got a medicine ball and went over to gate 10 at Neyland, and we got buried. We got absolutely buried in the middle of the season. That was like the biggest no-no. And I was pretty straight laced. I never got in trouble really, except for that one time, which was really when I had the most like lenience, because I was playing a lot, and we were like middle of the season, top 5 in the country. But Q was like, I'm still going to remind y'all that you hadn't done jack yet, basically. And Blade is a freak of an athlete, right? And so I'm dying. I'm basically a year and a half off left knee ACL surgery, and we're like lunging up and down gate 10 with medicine balls above our head, doing like side to side with. It was just the most miserable thing you could do if you have a bad knee. And so Blade was crushing me. He would have crushed me anyways. He's much taller. His takes him about half as many lunges as I do to get up the dang hill. And basically we kept having to go longer because of me. And like I was in great shape, but he made it to where it was just not going to be good for me. And Blade was a saint about it. And we went home to my apartment and we both laid on the couch. And my wife was like, what is wrong with y'all? Was it that bad? Blade was like, oh, it was awful. And I love that kid to death. Like he let me kind of be his mentor, even though we both knew he was way better like already than I ever could have imagined being. But it is really funny that he's a New York Met.
I know New York seems like such a like Gilbert. I can see Gilbert fitting in there. You know, being
Yeah,
from
he's fine. He's from
and
Minnesota.
big personality. But Blade, yeah, it is an odd fit for him.
It is. I really could only see Blade on the Braves, the Rangers, or the Astros, and
Right.
anything else is kind of weird. But Ryan Weathers is from the same hometown as him, so at that little 1A school, Loretto, Tennessee, has had 2 first-round pitchers go.
Yeah,
in the
they
last
were
10
talking on the
years.
broadcast how his
Wild.
David Weathers had been like one of his mentors there growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
I would welcome him to the Rangers with open arms. Let me just say that's my weird.
You a
I've
Rangers
talked about it
guy?
on here. I am. Yeah, but
You got Evan Carter.
yeah, I mean, well, and they got a couple Vandy guys in there
That
now
doesn't count.
too, which they do okay. But well, and that's a great story. Tony's a psycho, isn't he? Like he just
is.
outside looking in, like, and I mean that in the best way, and absolutely like a compliment to him. You said he's super OCD and everything. Like you can just kind of tell outside looking in. The only thing the man thinks about is baseball, right? Like
Literally
that's just what it seems like.
Literally it.
He seems like he has the perfect demeanor though for baseball. Just his his humbleness and his like deflecting credit all the time, like with the media. It seems like he's such a great fit for Tennessee.
Yeah, I think he would be phenomenal anywhere. So I think Tennessee's just lucky that they decided to make him their head coach before somebody else did. Because I think he could literally win in a sandbox. You give him enough resources, but he is absolutely a psycho, and it hurt him this weekend. Being stubborn and wanting to play on Friday, that hurt him. But those same reasons for him starting the game, which was the wrong choice, are the reasons that he's won so much. So it's hard for me to criticize for too long, other than like, yeah, look at the radar next time. There was no way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you're not always going to bat 1,000 when it comes to baseball. I think that's what some fans, forget is like sometimes
100%.
it's just not going to work out.
100%. And I think our fans are getting better and learning, and so many people have kind of taken to baseball, and we want them all, even if you got no clue yet. First game is going to be this weekend. Bring it on, because there was a time where we couldn't sell them to the stadium, and now it's like we got them all. So be thankful for that for sure.
It has been funny seeing Tennessee fans come around, because we didn't know. Basically, I have a really good friend of mine. He actually, you do the Basilio show. Has Jake from Memphis ever called in? You may not even remember. So many people call in and stuff, but he's a good friend of mine.
I think he called in. Maybe it may have been this week.
I think he calls him fairly regularly. I don't listen to everything Basilio does, but yeah, he was football only. And he's just slowly over time been like, I can't believe I absolutely love baseball. It's like my favorite thing now. And it's all thanks to Tony Vitello. But this was incredible, man. This is such good stuff. We're definitely gonna have you on again. And everybody, VIP play, keep an eye out for that. And I'll just kind of leave it to you, Will. Plug anything and everything that you're doing, like the Basilio stuff, VIP play, whatever. I'll leave the floor to you here before we go.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. You kind of summed it up there pretty good, but I appreciate y'all having me on a ton. I'm down to talk ball anytime, and I'm Tennessee all the way around, so I like talking Tennessee. Probably football would be my second, definitely over basketball. But I was short and kind of slow, so like basketball was just never even on the table for me. So I guess that's why I didn't love it as much. But I love football a ton. But obviously Tennessee baseball is what I know best, and so I like chopping it up. But super appreciate you guys. Not only just your partnership on the business side, but also your coverage of Tennessee. You guys do a good job, and it was fun hopping on with y'all. So definitely have to do it again, and hopefully have more wins to discuss.
I certainly hope so. Speak it into existence. We're going to turn this thing around. This now is the start of another College World Series run. All right, Charlie Burst, Zach Reagan, Will Heflin, our special guest. And as I mentioned, obviously there's a transfer portal, football, basketball, everything happening. We'll be back on the horse next week, so look out for that Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, we're live on YouTube. Check that out, and we will talk to you guys next week.